Welcome to the Athletes Against Antisemitism and Discrimination information session. My name is Stacey Gallen, and I'm the founding director of the Benjamin Ferencz Institute for Ethics, Human Rights, and the Holocaust, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to using the lessons of the Holocaust to promote justice, tolerance, equality, and human dignity for all people. I'm also one of the founders of the Athletes Against Antisemitism and Discrimination Consortium. I am joined this evening by the head of our consortium, recently retired Davidson College head basketball coach Bob McKillop. I don't know how long I can use the recently retired, but I'm sticking with it. So I'm sticking with recently retired. Dr. Amanda Caleb, educational consultant for the Ferencz Institute, professor at Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine, and one of the leaders of the Davidson Journey of Remembrance. Dr. Alex Kaur, son of Holocaust survivors Eva and Mickey Kaur, podiatrist and sports enthusiast, and Graham Honecker and Jerry Logan, authors of the book Unbracketed: Big Time College Basketball Done the Right Way, which details the Davidson trip to Auschwitz. Unfortunately, the other two founding members of the consortium couldn't be here tonight, but I definitely want to acknowledge them. Dan Grunfeld, grandchild of Holocaust survivors and son of Olympic gold medalist, NBA player and executive Ernie Grunfeld, and author of the book By the Grace of the Game, The Holocaust, A Basketball Legacy, and an Unprecedented American Dream. And Rabbi Erez Sherman, co-senior rabbi of Sinai Temple in Los Angeles and host of the podcast Rabbi on the Sidelines, which features interviews with key figures in the sports world who are using athletics as a way to foster unity and promote peace among different faiths and cultures. You'll be hearing from the other members of the consortium shortly. We founded this consortium in July of this year, before the events of this past month created an even greater need for a program like this. However, in light of current events, our consortium is more important now than ever before, and we're very glad that you're here with us to learn more about how we can engage, educate, and empower athletes, both at the college level and beyond, to use their platform to stand up and speak out against injustice. So with that being said, I want to begin this program by reading the statement that we released on October 11th. Athletes Against Antisemitism and Discrimination stands with the people of Israel in the wake of the horrific terrorist attacks by Hamas. The death toll from the October 7th attacks against Israel represents the deadliest assault on Jews since the Holocaust. 78 years later, we will not be silent in the face of anti-Semitism and threats to human dignity and human rights. This consortium was founded with the mission of engaging athletes, both at the student level and beyond, and empowering them to use their platform to help raise awareness regarding the Holocaust, anti-Semitism, and other forms of identity-based hate. In the wake of the abhorrent attacks against innocent civilians launched by Hamas, we believe that now more than ever, it is necessary to encourage the next generation of change agents to stand up and speak out against these crimes against humanity. We urge those in the athletic community to learn the facts about the situation in Israel and use their platform to address these human rights abuses. Athletes Against Antisemitism and Discrimination can provide resources and information to help educate and inspire all who are willing to use their platform to affect real change. Many organizations, including the NBA, WNBA, NFL, NHL, PGA Tour, and MLB, as well as individual teams and players, have publicly condemned the terrorist attacks by Hamas and pledged their support to the people of Israel. We are grateful for their leadership and their willingness to use their platform to fight anti-Semitism, violence, and injustice. We encourage other members of the athletic community to join us and add your voice to the conversation. Together, we can ensure that the atrocities of the Holocaust are not repeated. So that was the statement that we released. Again, we founded this consortium in July. We had no idea at the time how important it would come to be, but we felt that it was necessary for us to put out a statement. So all of you are aware of this, but the power of sports to influence culture and shape conversations cannot be overstated. Many of us obviously know this, right? We've known this for a while. But I will tell you that personally, at least in my family, this has been reinforced over the past 3 weeks. My older son sends me screenshots every time an athlete posts anything on social media having to do with Israel. But student athletes are in a very unique position. They have a platform both on campus and also within the community, but they don't always know if they should use it, how they should use it, when they should use it. They have seen professional athletes use their voices, but oftentimes, be criticized for this, told that they're just athletes, that they should stick to dribbling, things like that. But they've also seen athletes use their voices and have great success doing that and really make an impact in their communities. So many of them want to follow in the footsteps of these athletes, know that they can, know that there's power in the platform that they have. But again, they're also students, right? They're also at a place in their lives where, they're in their formative years. So they need to learn how to use that platform. And what we've all found is that there really aren't programs dedicated to teaching them how to do this. That's where we come in. We have a responsibility to provide this type of education, the resources, and also the guidance and the mentorship to promote ethical leadership for these young people. Because if we don't do it, then we're really abdicating our ethical responsibility. We're falling down on the job. And now more than ever, we can't do that. So in 2018, the Ferenz Institute and Candles Holocaust Museum and Education Center took the Davidson College basketball team on a journey of remembrance to Auschwitz-Birkenau, along with Eva Moses-Poor, a survivor of Joseph Mengele's infamous twin experiments, and Alex Poor's mom. The team spent 4 harrowing days touring Auschwitz-Birkenau and hearing Eva's life story. They walked through former barracks of concentration camps that serve as a memorial now and that house personal artifacts of the victims, clothing, shoes, prosthetic limbs, even human hair. They stood in the gas chambers and they saw the ovens used to burn the bodies of those who were murdered. They saw the worst that humankind has to offer. But they also heard Eva's story of forgiveness. They took part in a memorial service. They affirmed their commitment to the importance of respecting the basic human dignity of all individuals and ensuring that our differences don't divide us, but rather unite us. And in interviews done at the end of the trip, each and every person, players and coaches alike, said that this trip transformed them. This was not a one-off experience. We didn't go back to the US and that was it. We never spoke to them again. It was the beginning of a lifelong journey for them and for those of us that were privileged enough to take part in this trip towards becoming ethical leaders, taking part in this transformation, in this journey, watching them understand their moral obligation to stand up and speak out whenever they see acts of hatred and injustice. After the trip, we continued to work with Davidson, the players, the coaches, the athletic department, the entire school. And it was obvious that this trip transformed more than just the people who were in attendance. And as proof of that, we have Coach McKillop here with us, serving, not just being a part of this consortium, but serving as the head of the consortium. I cannot say enough about the leadership and guidance that Coach McKillop has offered. He is an incredibly humble individual, and I do my best to respect that. However, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge not only the professional leadership and guidance that he has offered, but the personal support that he has offered to my family and myself as Jews in this unprecedented and extremely challenging time. He is what we would call a mensch. He is a genuinely good person. I am honored to be able to work with him. I am more honored to be able to call him a friend. And I am privileged now to be able to turn the program over to Coach so that he can tell you about the journey of remembrance and his involvement with this program and why you should get involved with the program as well. Coach.
Thank you, Stacy, for your very kind words and introduction. And thanks to all of you for joining us for this very vital and significant conversation. I was a history major in college. I taught history and coached basketball in high school for 6 years. I read books, I watched films. I knew about the Holocaust. I knew about the Nazis' final solution. 10 years ago, I had the fortune of taking a Davidson alumni group on a trip to Auschwitz-Birkenau and the Warsaw Ghetto. And in that process, it was no longer a chapter in a history book for me. It was no longer a movie or a documentary. My life changed, and I would never view the world in the same way again. As I walked through the camp on a beautiful summer day, I heard the birds chirping and the green grass, saw it, the blue sky. The wind was blowing through those tall trees there. There was a calm, there was a peace, there was a tranquility. I even have a vivid memory of hearing a lawnmower ringing in my ears. And yet that as I walked through there, I came to the crematorium, the ovens, the gas chambers, the barracks, the huts that farm animals live in, the laboratories for experiments. It was an incredibly life-changing experience for me, and it was no longer a movie or a chapter in a history book. I saw the suitcases, I saw the clothes, I saw the glasses, I saw the shoes, I saw the clumps of hair, children and adults. Historically, I have taken our team on trips abroad that's allowed by the NCAA every 4 years, and I took them to Italy and showed them Roman ruins, and I showed them artifacts of the Renaissance. But we played basketball games during that period. I even took our team when we were in Hawaii to Pearl Harbor, and again, we played basketball games. So I tried to give them a glimpse of history. And then Amanda and Stacy approached me about going to Auschwitz and asking me if I would lead our team on a trip there. And when they proposed the trip, there was no hesitation whatsoever from our players. Most of them could have been on a beach. It was the July 4th weekend or just before the July 4th weekend. It was a 2-day appearance in Auschwitz, but 1 day to get there and 1 day to return. So pretty strenuous experience. And there was no basketball. We had no intent of playing basketball. Every guy welcomed the opportunity to have this experience. Stacy and Amanda invited us, facilitated it, orchestrated it, directed it. 20 players and coaches had their lives changed. And as Stacy said, the rippling effect of that has been extraordinary. I see one of our assistant coaches, I see his children, young children, how they've already at the age of 8, 9 been impacted by this. We saw this through the lens of Viva Moses Core, one of the Mengele twins, one of the survivors, a woman who took us to the selection platform where that train sits as a memorial, where she lost hold of her mother and her father the last time she saw them. And she can forgive. She became a hero to me and to all of Davidson. And we've never looked at the world in the same way. Let me read what words I used in the aftermath. And it's interesting that these words were spoken in a Presbyterian church pulpit by a minister who gave a sermon in Chicago a week after our visit. The volatility of our world right now requires a response informed by both a respect for human dignity and an understanding of what happens in its absence. We are stepping into a moment in time when for millions, evil seemed to have triumphed and humanity has vanished. I want our players to understand this experience for life and to bring them back here, not just as a lesson, but to live what they learned. Our world needs leaders who aim to lead and to serve, guided by human instincts and creative and disciplined minds. We need advocates for and defenders of human dignity and respect, and that's why we went. I said that in July 2018, 5 years ago. How powerful is that? I spoke to two of my very close friends in Israel. They coach at Hapoel Jerusalem, a pro club in Jerusalem. And as soon as this happened on October 7th, I immediately got in touch with them. In tears, they said, players I coached have been killed. I've seen so many different outpourings of support and lament from David Blatt, former coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who voiced a very strong video. Even the guy that was known as the Jewish Jordan, Tamir Goodman, has been clearly stating in a very loud voice what's going on. One of our own Davidson players who plays for Maccabi Tel Aviv had to flee with his 2 children and his wife to Cyprus because of dangers that were lurking behind him. We can't allow this to be left for historians and journalists. We can't allow this to be subjectively written about. No revisionist history here. We can't allow people to advance their own agenda. We need to stop this. Stop it now. And what's going on our campuses, what went on in the south part of Israel should never happen again. But we said that about the Holocaust, and sadly, we're having a repetition now. We need to do what we can to make sure this doesn't happen again. Stace.
Thank you so much, Coach. As I said before, every time I hear you speak, I am inspired by your words. And I just really appreciate everything that you've always done for this program, for this cause. I echo your sentiments, and I thank you. In addition to taking teams to Auschwitz, which is obviously, I would say, the gold standard when it comes to this, there is, all of us can talk until our faces turn blue, but there is nothing more powerful than the power of place. We also provide other aspects to our program. So, I mean, it would be unrealistic to think that we could take every single team to Auschwitz, but it is not the only method for effectively engaging, educating, and empowering athletes to stand up and speak out against injustice. And particularly right now, we need to be able to do something, and we need to be able to do it sooner rather than later. So, Athletes Against Antisemitism and Discrimination has created and continues to develop a comprehensive interactive curriculum to deliver our message. And I want to introduce Dr. Amanda Caleb, who will talk about one of the key aspects of our program. Amanda?
Thanks, Stacy. So as Stacy mentioned, this is an ongoing development of this interactive curriculum, but one key component is holding up my prop. Stacy already mentioned Dan Grunfeld's book, By the Grace of the Game, which is what we think is a really pivotal text in the education about not just the Holocaust, but the role that athletes can play as change agents and the platforms they have to speak out against anti-Semitism, and to really kind of capture the importance of this moment, but also the historical moment regarding the Holocaust. So we have created a curriculum guide that can be used in a number of different ways alongside this book. There's an opportunity for student athletes to do self-reflection. That can be done through journaling, which is something we did with the Davidson athletes when we went to Auschwitz-Birkenau, but also an opportunity for athletes to come together and have conversations about what Dan discusses in the book. So his family's journey, his grandmother was a survivor and his grandfather were survivors of the Holocaust, their journey to the United States, the challenges they faced as immigrants to the States, and his dad's, Ernie Grunfeld's rise to stardom, and his exceptional career in the NBA and as an Olympian, as well as Dan's own career as a professional athlete. And the juxtaposition of his family's history with the Holocaust alongside their success as a basketball family really is an opportunity for student athletes, not just basketball players, to think about the roles history have played in shaping them. And again, the platform they have to speak out against things like anti-Semitism. One of the major themes of this book that Dan has talked about in a lot of interviews is the contrast between darkness and light. And while there is an awful lot of darkness, it's the light we have to hold on to and the opportunity to be the light for others. And that can happen through education. The book really explores what people can do to each other and what people can do for each other. And I think that's a pivotal concept for us now, perhaps more than ever. So the guide is meant as an opportunity to do some reflective activity, as I mentioned, to have discussion. Dan has also been very generous to say, to the best of his ability, we'll zoom in for any discussion with teams that would like to have him talk to them. And he's a wonderful storyteller, not just in the book, but in person as well, and can really offer some further insight into his story, his family's experience, and why this is so important. The other piece I want to mention about this curriculum is while we have this guide designed for facilitation within a team, designed primarily for collegiate athletes, it's also designed for collegiate athletes to be educators of younger generations as well. And so we've set it up in a way that they can go out into the community, work with younger student athletes, with younger, school-age children, and have a discussion about the book as well. And so one of the things we really emphasize is the idea of being a change agent, but also being a multiplier. And we think this is a wonderful opportunity that, while Stacey said it would be amazing to take everyone to Auschwitz, the power of place is unquestionable. This is another piece, and one that can be implemented readily, fairly easily, I would say, in terms of any program right now. So that's kind of a preview of what that curriculum will look like and some of the opportunities with Dan's book. Stacey?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amanda. It's a great book. It's a great guided curriculum. My son refuses to read any Holocaust books, despite the fact that I am his mom and this is what I do for a living. He's afraid. He read Dan's book and he said, "This is the best book ever. Why did you not tell me about it?" And I said, "Hi, I told you about it several times, but teenage boys and all that stuff." So I can tell you from personal experience, this is a great way to involve people in like a non-scary way, because people hear about the Holocaust and they think, well, that's depressing, or that's history, or that's not something that matters to me. But this book is engaging, and it is a way for people to really come together and talk about this topic in a way that is not frightening. That's really the best way that I can put it. I talked to a variety of audiences of different ages. And I would say that that's one of the things that seems to be a barrier. People are afraid to talk about this. What if I do the wrong thing? What if I say the wrong thing? I don't have enough information about this. This book brings people together. And it's one of the great things that I think Dan has managed to do, because he talks about family and he talks about sports, and it's not just kind of negativity and darkness all the time. It's inspirational and brings hope as well. So it's one of the things that we really latched onto about this, and one of the reasons why we wanted to incorporate it. And speaking of the idea of inspiration and hope, I want to introduce Alex Core, who I talked about earlier. We offer, as another portion of Athletes Against Antisemitism and Discrimination, a speakers bureau who can lecture virtually or do it in person. Alex is the son of Holocaust survivors Eva and Mickey Core. Eva was probably the biggest inspiration that in my entire life. She was a friend, she was a mentor, and she was everything. And Alex has continued her vital work, telling her story, talking about finding forgiveness, finding the light in the darkness. And we are very privileged to have Alex as part of our consortium as well. So Alex, I turn it over to you.
Thanks a lot, Stacy. I appreciate it. And thanks to Coach McKillop and Amanda and Jerry and Graham and Rabbi Sherman and Dan. Yes, I am the son of 2 Holocaust survivors. My father, Mickey Kor, was from Riga, Latvia, was liberated near Magdeburg. And my mom, as Stacy mentioned and Coach mentioned, was from Hungary, Romania, was one of the Mengele twins. And so, ironically, growing up in Indiana, our family was consumed with the sport of basketball and sports in general. And an interesting story is that when my father, just to give you an inkling of how I was raised, my father, when he made it to Indiana, his basketball coach at Indiana State Teachers College, which later became Indiana State University, was also the gym teacher. And so he found out he could learn how to play basketball by taking this gym class. My dad, on a good day, was 5'2". And this coach was, his name was John Wooden. That's right, the John Wooden. And at the end of the first semester, Coach Wooden took my dad aside and said, Mickey, you're a good influence on these young students. Maybe take the class again. I'm going to give you an A. And they developed a friendship. And years later, when UCLA was playing and I was 6, 7, 8 years old, my dad said, there's my gym teacher. So I've been consumed with the game of basketball. And yeah, back in 2018, when Coach McKillop and his team joined us in Auschwitz for, as I say, a crash course in survival and perseverance, hope, healing, resilience. My mom and I was involved, but it was just amazing for me as a son of 2 Holocaust survivors, and I've been to Auschwitz over 25 times, for me to see how these young athletes and young coaches and Coach McKillop, how they embraced my mom. One of the players, Kellen Grady, had roots in South Africa, and they shared a lot of interesting stories. And I just found it was so inspiring for me to see how these young basketball players really embraced my mom. Some didn't know whether to cry. Some didn't know whether to hold her hand, hold her umbrella because it was hot out. But at the end of those 4 days, I knew that their lives had been changed. Ironically, almost a year later, we were at Auschwitz again. And on July the 2nd, 2019, my mom was preparing a letter that she wanted to read at the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, which would have been January 27th, 2020. And in this letter, which Stephen Smith helped her with and Michael Berenbaum helped her with, she wanted the world to know that anti-Semitism, unfortunately, was rearing its ugly head. And unfortunately, we all know that my mom's words, unfortunately, are very prophetic. 2 days later, in our hotel room in Krakow, she died during the trip. And so, moving forward, I am on the board of directors for Candle's Holocaust Museum. Very involved. I've been a podiatrist for 33 years, and I've been very involved in college athletics. I've been the team podiatrist, and I think, just to kind of summarize everything, I think it's so important for college athletic teams, whether they're basketball or tennis, to seriously consider going to Auschwitz in the next couple of years, if not this summer of 2024, then thereafter. Because yes, you can read about it in a book, you can read about it in a newspaper, online, and you watch movies and you can see YouTube interviews, but unfortunately, or fortunately, there's nothing like being there and experiencing it, as Coach McKillop graphically portrayed. And my second request is that hopefully the college coaches and athletes and athletic directors that hear this Zoom understand how it is important for me and others for us to hear their voice. In this day and age, when we hear so many negative things, I really would like people, as Stacy said at the beginning, to understand the truth and to let us hear your voice in such shape, manner, or form, so we understand that the next generation of college athletes, the next generation of students, the next generation of doctors, lawyers understands the importance of, as I said, hope, healing, resilience, and yes, forgiveness. Thank you, Stacy, for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you so much, Alex. So in addition, we also we work with Dan's book, and we also work with another wonderful book. And I'm not sure if Graham or Jerry has it as a prop, but I do. And that is called Unbracketed Big Time College Basketball Done the Right Way. So as I said earlier, the trip that we took with Davidson impacted not just the players, not just the coaches, not just those of us who were there, but really had a ripple effect on so many people. And Graham and Jerry took the opportunity to write about the trip in this book. And I want to turn the program over to them so they can tell you about their book and also their involvement with the consortium and maybe how you can get involved as well.
Barry, do you want to start or would you like me to?
You go for it.
Okay. I'd like to lead off by referencing a conversation that Alex and I had, I think 3 or 4 days before everything that's going on in Israel took place. Alex and I were having lunch with a good friend of ours, a great guy, and we were talking to him about the consortium and things that we were doing, a movie that we had worked on about his mother. And he looked at me and he said, "You're not Jewish. Why are you involved in all of this?" And he didn't mean it in a negative way, but it really took me back and said, we should all be doing this. We should all be caring about the discrimination and the anti-Semitism and everything going on. And so this for me, it's a natural thing, but it's something that is just so important. And it's an honor for me to be with you tonight. I won't speak very long, but the trip did, when Alex, who's one of my very close friends, and I think that's another great thing is, I'm actually 4 of our presenters, correct me if I'm wrong, Stacey, are not Jewish tonight. That's one of the aspects of this. Alex, I consider my best friend. I don't know if he does, but I consider him my best friend. And when he first told me about the Davidson trip, I was just stunned because I've been around basketball my entire life. I work around higher education and athletics, and every coach I've ever known only took one of these trips to try to get better on the court. So this is really, really an amazing thing. And Jerry and I did a book on Butler several years back, and it was really Jerry that said, I have this other idea that is inspired by the Davidson trip about how college athletes and teams can again be a voice for the greater good. And we started our book Unbracketed with that story. A motivation for me, when you read about college athletics right now, and you have for years, it's really, you pick up on the negative stuff, the cheating, the recruiting violations, student athletes not going to class. Right now, the controversies over name, image, and likeness. I was late getting on this call because I was a call about name, image, and likeness. I much prefer to be on this one right now. But there's so many good things that are going on. And there's this great platform that can be had. And, that is our hope. My dream is that next summer, there is another team, going to Auschwitz, that there are programs taking advantage of the things Amanda's working on. I see my really good friend, Julie Rolash, who's the commissioner of the Horizon League, on the call tonight. She really gave Jerry and I a platform this summer to speak to a number of their presidents. And it's just getting these good things out that's so important. Before I turn it over to Jerry, I just want to read a quick passage from the book because, we floated this consortium idea out. We're hoping it really gets out on this call, but we've even had a couple coaches so far ask the question, correct me if I'm wrong, Stacey, well, how does this make my team better on the court or on the field? And I think I get that. That's the natural mindset of a coach. But it also is what makes Coach McKillop's decision and Davidson's decision so unique. But I'm going to quickly read this paragraph because I think it embodies how it can make a team better. This is from the first chapter. There isn't a more moving example of a basketball team embodying an educational mission than Davidson's time in Auschwitz. Coach Bob McKillop had vowed that the team would not touch a basketball the entire trip, but when they arrived back in North Carolina, the game became their medium for expression and continued learning. As is his custom, McKillop relied on a visual reminder to thread the memory of the trip into the Wildcats' routines. One of McKillop's assistants described the effect in an email to Eva's son, Alex Core. I cannot say with 100% certainty, but I believe a large part of the togetherness of this team is the shared experience they had this summer. We have a framed picture of Eva in our conference room, so we get to see her every day as her spirit lives on with each of us here. In another email to Alex, a Davidson guard confirmed this effect. Every time I go through some kind of adversity, he wrote, I'll think of Eva and say, if she could go through 4 years in Auschwitz, I can get through this. And I think this is what it's all about, is what we're trying to do is to, again, enable athletes to use their platform, but there's so many things that these can do for student athletes that go well beyond their years of being on the court or on the field. And I'll turn it over to Jerry.
Thanks, Graham. I won't speak long. I just want to share that when I was, I don't even know how old, 7, 8, 9, I was getting signed up for my first sports league. I was so excited. I was hell-bent on playing. It's all I wanted to do. So we go to sign up for baseball. And I don't even know how this works, because it doesn't seem, now that I have kids, like this is even a possibility, but this is really what happened. It was full, and there were basketball signups at the same time. And my dad said, well, do you want to try basketball? And I was so dejected that I just said, yeah, sure, fine. I never played baseball my entire life. I played 1 season of basketball. I signed up for winter. I signed up for spring. I signed up for summer and fall and played season round. Never even flirted with another sport. And I can now look back through my life, which doesn't even register on the basketball landscape. I played Division III basketball, but I can trace my family, my kids, all through that decision to play basketball and to see how far the game would take me. And so I, like the other people on this call, like Dan speaking for the light, kind of have that hope that there are lots of people out there playing open-ended and seeing how far the game will take them. And I do hope that one of the places it takes some of them, and continues to take some of them, is back to Auschwitz. When we were researching the book, people would say, well, that Davidson team and Coach McKillop's program, that's a 1 of 1. And I believe that's true. But one of the big thrusts of the book is how 2 things that seem opposite on the surface can be true. And so I do believe that while that Davidson program, while Coach McKillop are 1 of 1s, that there are others out there, and that we have to find them and get them there and see what happens, and then see where the game will take them and who they pass it along to, and see what basketball can become for us, see what tennis can become for them. I can't speak to tennis, but Alex can. Whatever sport it may be, if it can take us there, then I think we're chasing and pursuing the right things. So I'm here as a cheerleader to kind of root on those who want to see how far the game will take them. I'll kick it back to you, Stacey.
Thank you so much. I think that was very, very eloquently put. That's why we started this consortium, because it's up to us. It's up to us to help the younger generation get to where we hope they can go. And they are still young, and they do still need guidance. And we can be that guidance. We can be, that light for them. We can help them get to the next step. We can help them understand their responsibility in the world. So just before we open the session up to any questions, I just wanted to conclude with one final thought that I think is important. When I teach about the Holocaust, I always make it a point to say it's not a religious issue. It's not a political issue. It's a human issue. We're all members of humankind, and we're all entitled to be treated with dignity and respect. But that means that we have a responsibility to treat other people with dignity and respect. The Holocaust is the singular example of what happens when we look at other people as being less than human. So learning the history of the Holocaust, understanding the history of the Holocaust, again, it's not about religion. It's not about race. It's not about gender. It's not about politics. It's about hearing the stories of the people who went through it. It's about seeing the way in which people dehumanize other people. And it's about understanding that it matters, right? It matters now more than ever. And we saw it with the Davidson team. I mean, we witnessed it firsthand. And I always say this, I knew that it would make an impact on them, but I didn't realize what an impact it would make on me. They all went out and this trip helped them. It made a mark on them individually. As Graham read, it made a mark on them as a team. It made a mark on the community. They went and they became the leaders that they were destined to be. We're at a turning point in history right now. Once again, it's unfortunate, but it's true. And so what we do now matters. What we do matters. And what we are then able to help empower others to do matters. And I think that's the most important thing about this call right now is how we choose to look at this point in time. Can we be the light in the darkness? Can we help empower the next generation? What is the legacy that we're kind of going to leave for them? And so for those of you who are here tonight, I just wanted to say thank you so much, because it means the world to us that there are other people who are willing to join us on this journey. So thank you very, very much from the bottom of our hearts. We appreciate you.